pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight is Monday, September 23rd. This is the regularly scheduled town council meeting. All members of council are present, as is our first selectman. Are there any comments or objections to the consent calendar? Seeing none, I will pass the consent calendar. Communications A through P appear on our agenda. That's that those be incorporated into the minutes, Madam Clerk. Public participation. Would anybody like to participate at this time from the public? Seeing none, I will close the first public participation session. We have 4 appointments this evening.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Before we move on, I did mean to make a comment on the consent calendar. I did just want to recognize Councilmember LaPellis for her donation of the yearbooks. I mentioned it on social media, but I know a lot of people have, both in and who have left town, have commented on how great that is to have those there. So I just wanted to commend fellow Councilmember LaPellis on that donation and just say thank you for a wonderful donation to the town.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are moving on to our appointments. The first is Christine Wittenauer, Republican, 6 Pequot Court to EDC. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Christine Wittenauer of 6 Pequot Court to the Economic Development Commission with a term ending January 31st, 2022.
Motion by Mr. Rooney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. LaPellis. Discussion, Mr. Rooney.
Christine Wittenauer is a 20-year resident of this town with a bachelor's degree in marketing and management. Prior to having her children, she worked at the Pepsi Company. She has served on the Architecture Review Board as an active volunteer for the Monroe Congregational Church Annual Strawberry Festival. Ms. Wittenauer believes her experience and education will serve as an asset to the Economic Development Commission. She's excited to help facilitate the growth of new businesses and to continue to maintain the beauty and charm of Monroe. This appointment fills the vacancy created by Robert Westland.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of this appointment and against, that motion carries 9-0. Is Ms. Wittenauer present? I don't see her.
No.
Second appointment is Ms. Barbara A.G., Republican, to the Historic District Commission. Mr. Rooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Barbara A.G., Republican of 4 Todd Drive, to the Historic District Commission as an alternate with a term ending July 1st, 2022.
Motion by Mr. Rooney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. LaPellis. Discussion, Mr. Rooney.
Barbara G. has lived in Monroe for 22 years. She works diligently as one of Monroe's assistant town clerks. Barbara recently served on the Conservation and Water Resources Commission. Her knowledge of the town's charmed history and cherished colonial structures makes Barbara a perfect candidate. She's looking forward to being an integral part of the Historic District Commission. This appointment fills the vacancy created by Rebecca O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on this appointment. All those in favor? And against, that motion carries 9-0. Moving on to our third appointment is item C, Elizabeth Haney, to WMNR. Mr. Rooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Elizabeth Haney, Republican of 31 Highland Drive, to WMNR Commission with a term ending February 23rd, 2021. Elizabeth, sorry.
Motion by Mr. Rooney, second by Ms. LaPellis. Discussion, Mr. Rooney. You guys are so good, you're getting ahead of yourself.
Yeah, I just can't stop. All these great appointments.
You can go, Mr. Rooney. Discussion.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth Haney has been an active volunteer with WMNR for the past 30 years. She has served on the WMNR Commission in the past and is eager to return. Ms. Haney believes she has the best background to benefit the town of Monroe serving on WMNR.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Any further discussion? All right, seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor and against, motion carries 9-0. I believe Ms. Haney is present. And Mr. Yes?
Yes. Ms. Haney is here.
Okay, perfect. Would you like to come forward and be sworn in so we'll save you a trip to town hall? He's coming
Right
to
here
you.
is fine, right here is fine. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as a member of the WMNR Commission to the best of your abilities, so help you God, or upon the penalty of perjury? Yes. Congratulations. Can you just return the top sheet to me? That'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
your service. Our last appointment is item D, James Weinberg to IWC. Mr. Rooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to appoint James Weinberg, Republican of 59 Rollage Pond, to the Inland Wetlands Commission with a term ending February 24th, 2021.
Motion by Mr. Rooney, is there a second? Second by Ms. LaPellis, discussion, Mr. Rooney.
Jim Weinberg is a 30-year resident of Monroe. He's a graduate of USMMA, the United States Merchant Marine Academy, where he earned a degree in marine transportation, as well as earned a license to operate any size commercial vessel, either steam or diesel, powered in the waters worldwide as a third mate. In addition, Jim was also commissioned and assigned in the U.S. Navy Reserve, ready to receive an honorable discharge after his service obligations have been met. He has operated Safe Harbor Tanker Charting and now Clarkson's Plateau, Connecticut Shipping in Monroe, Connecticut. Well, Safe Harbor's been here since 1984. The new change is still in Monroe. Jim has served on many boards and commissions within the town of Monroe. His vast experience makes him an excellent candidate for the Inland Wetlands Commission. This appointment fills the expired term and vacancy created by Jason Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor and against, motion carries 9-0. I do not see Mr. Weinberg. That is all for our appointments. Moving on to our action items. A is the Town Council Committee on Finance, Education, Health, and Public Safety Matters. Mr. Rooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have not met since the last council meeting.
B, Planning and
Before
Zoning
we go
Pub-
on, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, Mr. Mallett.
Just one update on finance. They did have a in-depth discussion on the Board of Ed shortfall and pushed some of that information over to, there was a meeting tonight at 7:30 at Board of Ed, a special meeting. So they're hoping that some idea of where that budget money is coming from and flowing will come to a complete head in the near future.
Great, thank you. Any, okay, moving on to B, Planning and Zoning, Public Works, Parks and Recreation, Mr. Fowles.
There's nothing pertaining to the town council from the last meetings.
Okay, thank you very much. C, L and A, Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did meet tonight. In fact, we covered new business items B through E, so you'll see the results of that. I did want to make a note to the council that we have started hearing some of the conversation around the EMS contract and how that's going forward. It was a very eventful, very informative meeting. Mr. Rooney, Councilman Rooney is the head of that committee and did a good job with Mr. Vitello, who came in as a member of that committee. So I look forward to hearing the next presentation. We're formulating our way forward. How are we going to gather all this information and make sure it goes through the proper process? So.
Great, thank you, Mr. Reed. D is strategic planning, Mr. Formicello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have not met since our last town council meeting. We are looking to schedule a meeting in the near future.
Great, thank you very much. EMS Building Committee, Mr. Rooney, obviously probably not much of an update because of Mr. Reed's comments, but.
Well, thank you.
I figured you had enough of the appointments.
No, I mean, we had a great meeting. Met with L&A, had some question about the purchasing policy, things of that nature, some concerns. These things are complicated to put together. So L&A requested that we go back to square one and kind of give a breakdown of how we got to where we are. These projects start, 18, 24 months, and it's good to have a recap. So I believe we're going to plan a special meeting between the EMS Building Committee and all of the members of the EMS Commission and, vet this out properly. So I believe that was a great meeting, so thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Rooney.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms.
can I
Echo.
go back to the strategic planning? In our packet, with your
Sure,
permission,
please.
in our packet, we have minutes from August 7th. Has there not been a meeting since August 7th? I think this is the second time we've gotten these minutes.
We have not met since those meeting minutes were submitted.
Okay,
There was one meeting that was canceled,
okay.
so that was the September meeting.
Thank you.
I mean, I think part of the reason is we're waiting on information regarding the study.
Okay,
And it had not come in completely, so it was kind of, that's where our next meeting was focused. And because that information wasn't ready for release, that's kind of what happened.
okay, thank you.
But we are ready to go. First Selectmen's update, Mr. Kellogg just passed out his printed report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So real quick, as you have before you, I just want to update the council that our Economic Development Commission is working actively on our third annual Restaurant Week, which will be October 20th through the 27th. We have many restaurants already signed up. They continue to add more. They're getting additional information from restaurants as much as possible so we can post specifics on the town website, something I know residents wanted more information on in terms of what the specials would be, et cetera. And we're looking to add some special events as well as this year, really blasting out through a direct mail coupon magazine about 40,000 promotional flyers throughout the region. So great work by our EDC, and I know their council liaison, Councilmember Rooney, has been very helpful in that regard as well. Update on the Wheeler Road, Shelton Road intersection. The state DOT did report back the results of their field investigation that we requested after the recent incidents. They advised that the site distances were appropriate and that they noted driver behavior is playing a key role, and they've noted the improvements to the sight lines, which we've discussed at length here many times before. And last but not least, I just wanted to let the council know that the town is going to take an active part in our first ever Think Pink Monroe. This is something that we are doing in partnership with St. Vincent Swim Across the Sound, brought to us by our great volunteer, Bonnie Maurer, who, yes, is related. She's been a great driving force for this wonderful project, and the town is really proud to support this. This is all obviously to support October being National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We're going to have an official kickoff on October 1st at the gazebo at 6 p.m. There'll be a lot of other activities going on throughout the town that the volunteers are working through with the swim, but we will also have the swim's mobile mammography unit here at the farmers market on October 4th as well. And should be noted that the swim has provided significant support to many Monroe families, which is why they chose to partner with that organization. So,
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I ask
Ms.
a
Aguirre.
question? Mr. Kellogg, Restaurant Week,
yes.
are signs, we gave a significant budget to EDC for Restaurant Week. How are they utilizing that budget?
Similar to their advertising, I assume there will be signs again to the extent they need to print off. Well, they probably would because the dates have changed. So, yeah, all the usual marketing efforts that they did last year, and they'll continue to do.
Okay.
Yeah, the Restaurant Week budget, I think, was maintained.
Okay.
I
Ms. Martin.
Mr. Kellogg, in the Wheeler Road, Shelton Road thing, it says installation of significant additional signage and warnings. Where are those located? Or are
Let's
they
see,
up there?
there is a stop ahead sign that's been added as you approach northbound Wheeler. There's an additional stop sign on the left side of Wheeler Road as you go northbound. There's a stop bar that was added, painted double wide. I believe both, there are crossing traffic does not stop signs that were put below the stop sign. Additional signage was put across the street, so across from 110, where there's like hash marks or whatever they're called. The stop sign, the traditional stop sign placement at the northbound Wheeler was replaced with a motion activated solar powered LED flashing stop sign. I'm probably missing a couple that were added. Can't think of the top of my head, but I think there's more signs added that intersection probably than many others in town, so.
Okay, moving on to the meat of our agenda, the unfinished business, we have none. We have 5 items of new business, beginning with the resolution regarding the disbursement of $22,000 in donations to various organizations from the Sprint for Monroe municipality.
I will introduce the following resolution. Resolution regarding disbursement of Sprint for Monroe 2019 donations and move for its adoption. Resolved that the Monroe Town Council hereby approves the disbursement of funds as recommended in September 18, 2019 Sprint for Monroe correspondence.
Motion by Mr. Pellis, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Martin. For discussion purposes, as we typically do, I'll turn the floor over to First Selectman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to start off by thanking, once again, our wonderful group of volunteers that work every year to assist in putting on this effort, which benefits so many organizations in our community. They've put forth recommended disbursement, and I'd certainly like to turn the floor over to Ms. Primorak or anyone else she'd like, or maybe Mr. Moise. I know she's looking to, they're trying to decide who's going to draw the short straw or something like that. Right? So.
I'll speak. You all did get a
Yes,
copy
they
of
all
our
did.
letter.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
So thank you once again for allowing us to come before you and let you know the great work that we were able to achieve for the town of Monroe through the 27th annual Sprint for Monroe. I'm here, my name is Amy Primorak, I'm the race director. With me I have Susan George, another community member, and Dr. Paul Moise, former race director, and my right-hand person with whom none of this would happen. This year was our 27th year. I've been involved for I think 6 years or so. And, this year we raised a total of $22,000. We were a little off of last year's numbers. We did have fewer registrations this year, but we had far more sponsorships this year. So local businesses supported us in great measure, and so we still have a robust amount of money to give away. So as you can see, we have a large number of organizations that we'd like to donate to. The Food Pantry and Project Warmth continue to be our largest donors. We like to support them because, especially with this year, we understand that the trail race is no longer happening, so Project Warmth needed a little more since they don't have that revenue stream anymore. We also donate to a variety of MASIC athletic groups that are engaged in healthy living and lifestyle choices. We also have a few numbers that might jump out at you. We significantly increased our donation to Parks and Rec this year. They had asked us to fund the purchase of an AED device. Apparently they only had 2, and so one had to go back and forth between the lake and the park, and so our donation of $12.75 will allow them to purchase a 3rd device, which we're happy to do. Volunteer EMS requested their funding go for new resuscitations, right? That is the request they made for us. And then the police department requested their donation for, Dr. Moise, you were in charge of that one, the exercise equipment.
For their new exercise center.
Yeah. So those are just several things that, to just kind of give you a sample of that our donations go towards. We have a new recipient this year. We added the Josh Fett Memorial Scholarship Fund. Frank Beck came to us and made a request for his Memorial Scholarship Fund, and it does meet our requirements. It benefits Monroe citizens. It's a worthy cause. And so, we were happy to add him to our roster of donated charities that we are supporting. Are there any questions?
Seeing none, thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
No.
As is typically the case, we enjoy putting these types of very generous donations on our agenda so that we give you the opportunity to come and tell as many people as possible about all your great work. So we thank you so much for all that you do. It's a phenomenal event and support so many great causes. It's just a wonderful thing. So with that, I will call for a vote. All those in favor? And against, the motion carries 9-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like the little Christmas St. Jude.
Moving on to item B is the resolution regarding the Emergency Food and Shelter Program Agreement Phase 36 Grant Award. Mr. Powers.
I will introduce the resolution regarding the Emergency Food and Shelter National Board Program, known as EFSP, Phase 36 Grant Award, and move for its adoption.
Motion by Mr. Powers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Aguilar, is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. pretty good with the voices. For discussion, I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a grant that our social services staff identified as being available, and we've not availed ourselves of it in the past. It's administered locally through the United Way. And our intent is, so we did apply for this grant, subsequently received a notice of an award of $5,000. It's under the Phase 36 of the federal grant program. And it does, you know, to my memo, basically Phase 36 modified the prior Phase 35. So in your online packet, we provided both the 35 and 36 criteria. Our Director of Community and Social Services is comfortable that we can certainly meet all the requirements of the program. It will go towards strictly food for the food pantry, and as you know from your packet, the town attorney has reviewed and given his memo in this regard.
So I'll read the
Thank you, Mr.
resolution. Resolved that Kenneth M. Kellogg, first selectman of the town of Monroe, is authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the town of Monroe the Phase 36 Local Recipient Organization Certification Form and the authorization agreement for automatic deposits and any associated documents by and between United Way Worldwide Incorporated for the Emergency Food and Shelter National Board Program Phase 36 Grant Award.
So let's do this properly. If Ms. Whippels, if I just ask that you withdraw your motion,
Gosh,
if you would just withdraw the original motion.
I'll withdraw the original motion.
And is there any objection to withdrawing the motion so that we can have this done procedurally properly? No, okay. And now if we would just restate the motion and read the resolution, and then we can have it all nice for
Okay.
Madam Clerk and all
Okay, so I
all
will.
our audience out there.
Okay, I'll introduce a resolution regarding the Emergency Food and Shelter National Board Program, EFSP Phase 36 Grant Award, and move for its adoption. Resolved that Kenneth M. Kellogg, first selectman of the town of Monroe, is authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the town of Monroe the Phase 36 Local Recipient Organization Certification Form and the authorization agreement for automatic deposits and any associated documents by and between United Way Worldwide Incorporated for the Emergency Food and Shelter National Board Program Phase 36 Grant Award.
Okay, so we have a motion by way of resolution by Mr. Pels. Do you want to read it again?
How about we read backwards?
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Aguilar.
I could do it backwards.
Discussion formally.
Can I say ditto?
Yes, you can. We have a record.
As previously reported.
Okay, any further discussion? No, okay, call for a vote, all those in favor? Against, motion carries 9-0, thank you. For indulging me on that. C, resolution regarding the FFY 2019 PMPG Performance Grant Application, Mr. Pels.
I will introduce a resolution regarding FFY 2019 Emergency Management Performance Grant Program application and move for its adoption. Resolved that the town of Monroe may enter into with and deliver to the state of Connecticut Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security any and all documents which it deems to be necessary or appropriate pertaining to the 2019 State Homeland Security Region 1 grant, and further resolved that Kenneth M. Kellogg, as the first selectman of the town of Monroe, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the town of Monroe and to do and perform all acts and things which he deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including, but not limited to, executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents.
Okay, motion by way of resolution by Mr. Pels, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mauer, for discussion, Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this grant, I'm sure, is very familiar to you. We've been receiving it for several years. It is a per capita grant that is administered by the state, comes from the federal, the source is ultimately from the federal government. The funds that we receive go towards stipends for the emergency management director and the deputy emergency management director.
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Any further discussion?
Just a
Ms.
question.
Martin, sure.
Did LNA, did these came out of LNA?
Yes, they did.
affirmatively?
Yes, they did.
LNA did review this, and they gave it a favorable recommendation.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, call for a vote, all those in favor? And against, motion carries 9-0. 0D is the resolution regarding the Tech Ops Specialty Vehicles LLC quote terms and conditions for the police department. Mr. Pellis.
I will introduce the following resolution. Resolution regarding Tech Ops Specialty Vehicles LLC quote/terms and conditions, and move for its adoption. Resolved that Kenneth M. Kellogg, First Selectman of the Town of Monroe, is authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the Town of Monroe the quote/terms and conditions and any associated documents by and between Tech Ops Specialty Vehicles LLC for the purchase of a crime scene investigation vehicle for the police department.
Motion by way of resolution by Mr. Pellis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Formicello. For discussion, Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. As this council will recall, funding was previously appropriated from the Police Private Duty Fund for the acquisition of a crime scene vehicle. The department is currently utilizing an old 1995 surplus ambulance that was converted. It's no longer, it's well beyond the end of its service life. And as the chief will certainly attest to, we feel that this the activities, the equipment that must be transported, and the field working conditions required for extended crime scene evidence collection, and requires a specific, a vehicle that's built for that specific purpose. The police chief worked with the town attorney to ensure that, in my office, to ensure that this was put out to bid. They have an acceptable bid from this vendor, and it does come within the amount that is appropriate. As you can obviously see, the chief is in the audience. If you have any specific questions that he can answer, or if he'd like to elaborate further, certainly be happy to yield the floor to him.
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Any questions, Mr. Mauer?
Just one. Do you know if we attempted to see if they would change their applicable law to Connecticut?
Attorney Hayden?
We did not, Mr. Mauer.
I would suggest that we might want to consider approving this pending that change, and if they are unwilling to make that change, I would still be okay with approving it, but attempting to make that change before we actually sign it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Any further discussion?
What does the attorney think? Can I ask what you think about that?
Sure. Mr. Pellis.
To me, the risk was such was so it was a non-issue. We see these things in almost every vendor contract that we have. I tend to pick and choose the battles where I think there's exposure to the town, and here I don't think there's much exposure to the town. We have participants from the vendor coming up here to fit, as I understand it. There's an opt-out provision. There's a process by which we could address any issues that we have with them. I think that's outlined in there before we get to litigation. So as such, there were adequate protections to resolve any issues before we got to that stage.
Thank you.
And
Mr. Hayden, you want to say something else?
and it's questionable whether those are always enforceable if depending on the interaction between the parties during the contract. But that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Martin?
No, I was just going to ask for an explanation on it.
Any other discussion? I don't have an objection with Mr. Mauer's suggestion of making an attempt and approving it conditionally. It being a public meeting, I don't know how good of a negotiation that will be for you, Attorney Hayden.
Certainly.
Since they'll know we're kind of showing our cards, but I'm happy to include that in the vote. So if you want, Mr. Mauer, if you want to suggest an amendment to the vote.
I move to amend our motion to be a conditional approval of an attempt on the part of the town to have the applicable law changed to Connecticut, with the understanding that if Tech Ops denies that request, that we would still approve after said request is made and denied.
May I inquire, Mr. Chairman? Is this something that the council would like to see as a standing matter with all contracts?
I think putting our attorney shoes on, our hats on here. Mr. Mauer's an attorney, as am I. I think it's preferable to fight our battles in our backyard rather than have to go elsewhere, but I do agree with your analysis. So I think it should be, we'd like to see it as an attempt, but if there's significant pushback, then I would say,
Understood, Mr.
unless it's serious, as you said, a serious risk to the town, then it is what it is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask, so would Attorney Hayden come just to tell us what happens?
I don't think he has to come back and tell us, but he's typically here, so I think that
Okay,
answers the
right.
question. But I think Mr. Kellogg's office would certainly keep us informed as to
That's
what
fine.
contract was approved. Ms. Martin?
Could I just ask Attorney Hayden, in the pick our battles kind of field, was this issue raised with them? Or would you be readdressing it with them, or it wasn't brought
It
up?
was not brought up.
Okay,
It was not a proposed change.
okay, thank you.
Before we continue discussion, is there a second on the motion to amend?
Not yet, because I'm losing control, but is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Aguilar, second. Any further discussion? With that, okay, so this vote is on Mr. Mauer's suggested amendment to the motion. All those in favor? And against? Motion carries 9-0. So we have before us the amended motion. Is there any further discussion relative to the amended motion that is on the table? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Yes. Motion carries 9-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Attorney Hayden, for that. Last item is the Creative Bug LLC agreement relative to the Edith Wheeler Memorial Library. Ms. LaPellis?
I will introduce the following resolution. Resolution regarding Creative Bug LLC subscription order form agreement and move for its adoption. Resolved that Kenneth M. Kellogg, First Selectman of the Town of Monroe, is authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the Town of Monroe the subscription order form agreement and any associated documents by and between Creative Bug LLC for the Edith Wheeler Memorial Library subscription.
Motion by way of resolution by Mr. Pellis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mauer. Again, Mr. Kellogg for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So our library director is looking to add the services of Creative Bug as another component of our library services, something she thinks will have significant demand and will be very well received by our patrons. She's actually looking to utilize this to replace another service that was utilized that's not well subscribed, I guess, for lack of a better term. This will provide access to various online programs, training, and some downloadable content as well. She's looking to basically obtain a library-level subscription, which will give full access, unlimited access to our library patrons. The agreement has been reviewed by our town attorney, and his memo is attached as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Any further discussion, Mr. Pellis?
Could you please, Mr. Kellogg, convey to Mrs. Rhines how much better the library is doing in terms of all these different things for different age people?
I'd be happy to relay that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just one question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Selectman, do you know, similar to the last library question I had, is this available both at the library and based off of your library card from your home as well?
This is primarily intended to be driven as a remote from it's authenticated from your library card, because a lot of it would be online, like web, streaming content kind of thing. Not that they couldn't access it from a library computer while they're there, but this is largely remote access.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Against, motion carries 9-0. That concludes our new business. We have the second public participation, infamous as it may be. Seeing none, I will close second public participation. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Before adjourning for this evening, can we read into the record the votes that we had this evening with regards to the unanimous votes that we had this evening?
I think all of them.
Okay, then I also want to point out for the record as well that one of the items that came up for debate here, the tech ops, whereby Mr. Mauer specifically raised a valid point with regards to trying to change the litigation should it become necessary that was debated, entertained, and also voted unanimously as well by this body.
With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Palace, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mauer, all those in favor? Somebody's favorite motion, motion carries 9-0.
Nancy, did you?
Can you just push
stop?
First selectman?
Thank you.